make some noise. Come on.
Yes, indeedy. Nick Foles, let's make some noise indeed. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the final word here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Your boy MattyB on the call. Coming at you on this late night. Is it Wednesday? It's midweek. I know it's not the weekend, and I know it's not Monday. So I'm guessing Tuesday or Wednesday. It's somewhere around there. But we're here, kind of following, for the Phillies being in Texas and the central thing, and it's kind of throwing the show off a little bit. It's a lot easier when they're on the West Coast. I can come on before the game ends, or obviously when they're playing in the East, I can come on right after they end. But kind of caught in between with this late night hour. But welcome to the program anyway. If those of you that are going to stay up with me for a little bit, I'm not going to be on long because I have a busy day tomorrow and I get some sleep. But definitely wasn't around yesterday, so I promised I would be back and I would be more, I try to do better, right, with my schedule. So here I am tonight, and hey, Joe, how you doing? Let's get right into this. Obviously, the news tonight is not good. If you're a Phillies fan, it's not good if you pride yourself on being a fan of quality baseball. Let's put it to you that way. Winning baseball. Should we say winning baseball, not quality baseball? Winning baseball? Was that maybe a better phrase here? Because right now what we're watching from the Phillies over the past two games, and to be more specific, the last 19 innings, has been a power outage and an offensive shortage that's really they're outdoing themselves, it seems like, on every single night. Tonight, 2-0 loss, which they followed up last night by losing 1-0. And then, yes, they beat the Mets on Sunday, but they didn't score any runs in the eighth inning. So by the official math total, it's no runs in the last 19 innings. So we're obviously going to continue the conversation tonight about the Phillies. Where do you start? Where does it begin? How do we start cracking this thing open? And what, I guess more importantly, what's the reason how do we get out of it? As they're going down in flames to quality opponents, and we'll definitely get into some of the Phillies stuff. So definitely on the table. Draft week is here for the other two major sports that represent the city in the winter. The NBA draft was tonight. Sixers, I guess, selected a guy they wanted. Maybe they didn't want. They selected him a little bit lower than they should have. EJ, what's his name? I don't even know. I don't really care, but we'll talk Sixers if you like. And of course, the Flyers on Friday night will begin their most influential. Well, will continue, I should say, their most influential offseason as all the Flyers fan base awaits for that magical day of July 1st when free agents can start moving around, and whether the Flyers might be players and whom they might be going after. We can definitely discuss that. Your day in Philadelphia sports history, your card of the night or your card review, and maybe of the night. I haven't put anything together for of the night, but it takes me 2 seconds. So we'll see where time takes us. But again, I'm not going to be on the air long tonight. I have a long day ahead of me tomorrow, so I'm going to try to work this out. It's Wednesday. Thank you, Joe. I'm not kidding you when I'm losing track of the day is really bad. And I am also excited for the NHL draft. And unfortunately, as we talked about the other night, we're not going to be able to cover it as we wanted to here on the network this year. I'm just not going to be able to be here. But we'll recap it as best we can next week. So let's get it going. Let's strap it in, strap it on, strap it up. Keep your head, hands, and feet inside the car at all times. And let's get on with your day in Philadelphia sports history. I got a couple facts tonight. Two of them, actually. And that's why it's a couple. Back in 1971 on this night, Willie Stargell hit what was thought to be the longest home run ever at the Vet. The amazing part, Stargell hit the tremendous blast during the Vet's inaugural season, and the record stood until the stadium's demolition over 30 years later. In September of 82, the Phillies recognized the Pirates' future Hall of Famer by unveiling a star in section 601 where the ball had landed. So on this night back in 71, in Veteran Stadium's inaugural season, Willie Stargell hit that the longest home run ever at Veteran Stadiums. And I actually sat near, I've seen the star up hand in person. We've watched it on TV for years. They would go to it all the time. And I wasn't around when that home run was hit, but obviously I've heard the stories and seen the footage. So Willie Stargell, a Hall of Famer, definitely a famed member of that Pirates, the glory years of the Pittsburgh Pirates of the 70s, and cornerstone of that 79 championship season. Unloaded that night in 1971 by recording the longest home run ever hit at Veterans Stadium. And then the other Philadelphia sports fact on this day came in 1992, and not a good one. Coming off of 2 consecutive All-Pro seasons, defensive tackle Jerome Brown, Eagles defensive tackle Jerome Brown, died on this day in both the prime of his life and career. The 6'2", 292-plus pound behemoth was a monster up the middle, earning first-team All-NFL AP honors in the final 2 years of play. Brown and his nephew Gus were both killed following an accident in which Brown's Corvette had skidded and flipped off the road while traveling at a high rate of speed in his hometown of Brooksville, Florida. So this was definitely, from a football standpoint, the Eagles coming off of 91 where, Randall broke his leg in week 1, and they had already assembled one of the greatest defenses that, maybe rivaling the Chicago Bears. Jerome Brown was a young, up-and-coming star. There was a lot of Super Bowl hype surrounding the 92 season with the return of Randall Cunningham back from injury. And this did not, obviously, this was transcended the sports situation, but just derailed the 92 season before it even began. And they didn't win a Super Bowl in 92. And we lost perhaps an all-time Eagle in the making. In Jerome Brown. So 2 very different Philadelphia sports facts on your late night here on Wednesday, June 25th, but prevalent and, relevant. So there you go. There's your night in Philadelphia sports history. The death of Jerome Brown and the home run hit by Stargell at the Vet, the longest ever in the history of the stadium. All right, so let's, I guess, with the Willie Stargell thing being kind of said, let's transition into the Phillies tonight. 2-0 losers. Wheeler pitched his butt off tonight. It's a common theme, right? I mean, how many more times do we got to sit up here and dissect these losses, right? I mean, it's if you can't figure it out, if you don't know how they lost, then I'm going to call into question your Philadelphia sports or your Philadelphia Phillies sports card, because they're losing, of course, the same way they always do, and that's the offense and lack thereof. Not as futile as last night. Last night they had a bunch of opportunities, 0 for 9, I think, in runners in scoring position, could not get anything going. Tonight, not as many plentiful opportunities, but they did have opportunities in this game and came up short. Again, with runners in scoring position and all across the board, as the team has now lost 2 games in a row after coming off a very inspiring weekend series against the Mets. And as we literally get ready to hit the midway point of the MLB season, that's tomorrow, game 81. I am very reminiscent of thoughts that I had on this team a year ago at this time. And as we all remember, this is around the time where homers didn't want to admit to it, and everyone called me crazy when I would say it, but I definitely saw some cracks in the armor, and the foundation didn't seem so strong. And of course, what happened is what happened. And tonight, it's the opponent they lost to. It's the type of game they lost, and it's the same MO. It's all the things that we as Phillies fans want to believe this team is a World Series contender. But when we watch games like this against teams like this, it brings you right back into reality that they're not a World Series. They're not a serious World Series contending team. They're a good team. They're an over 500 team. They're a playoff team in 2025 in this brand of MLB baseball. But they're not. A World Series contender, and it sucks. It sucks to say that, because you don't want to be that guy in late June to say, you know what, I don't believe anymore, and I don't think they're going to get there. But as I've kind of hinted over the years, I'm not pulling from the first 80 games of this season. I'm pulling from the last, what, two seasons plus 80 games to make my assessment of this team. And it's a valid assessment because it is essentially the same team. It's a valid assessment because it's being run the same way. And it's a valid assessment because they still lack the ability to make any changes, or they don't want to make any changes. They're going down with the ship. They feel that they got the right combinations. All the above things that they believe are the reasons why they're not they're not a World Series contender, because they've proven it day in and day out, night after night, season after season, that this formula is not working. And they get your heart on a yo-yo. It's up, it's down, it's all over the place. But moments of clarity and reality, like this week so far against the Astros, they hit hard. And I know for those who want to feel good about this team, who want to support this team, who want to get behind this team, they probably are getting punched harder right now than any other of us, because it's that stark dose of reality. And tonight, I mean, we can talk about it. We can go over it. We got another quality to above average starting pitching performance from Zach Wheeler. Not the best, labored a little bit. What was he? Threw 60 pitches in 3 innings. That's not good. But you know what? Zach Wheeler did what Zach Wheeler had to do. And I know there's been some backlash on the bullpen. I mean, come on, man. They gave up a run. I mean, they gave up 1 run. They've lost these last 2 games by a combined score of 3-0. I'm not going to pin blame anywhere on the bullpen. I'm not pinning blame anywhere on the pitching at all on this. It's always the offense. And the real ignorant Phillies fans want to go and look at the pitching and start dissecting the Phillies pitching as is, to include the bullpen. Honestly, to include the bullpen is a deep playoff running, contending rotation and bullpen. It is. The bullpen's not the best, especially when they don't have roles. But the starting pitching, and if you combine both aspects of this of pitching, the starters and the bullpen, it's one of the best in all of the game. The problem settles solely on the shoulders of the offense. And it's not like that's news. I'm not breaking anything. I'm not recreating the wheel here. It's the offense. It was the offense last year. It was the offense in 2023. It's the offense in 2025. And at what point do we got to just say it's not working? This experiment with the misconstructed, unbalanced lineup that nobody can seem to get a kind of a foothold on a position inside that lineup. When do we finally say, and more importantly, when do the Phillies finally say that this is just not working? Are they too invested in all this? Is it not as easy as saying it's not working? Would they look foolish at this point with the millions and billions of dollars that they've invested in this lineup to come out and say, you know what, it ain't working? Or is it foolhardy of them to believe that eventually one day some switch is going to be thrown and it will work? But I don't know how much longer we have to wait to see. It's not working consistently. And we've seen it work at times. We've seen it all hit the cylinders at the same time, and it's beautiful, but they don't hit together enough. They don't hit together consistently enough to get really, really excited about the future of this team. And 2-0, just a pitiful attempt at a game tonight by this offense. Thoughts on the James Duran rumors? Now, are you talking about the kid from Boston, the Boston Red Sox? Joe, if you believe in any specter of the universe, if this is who I think you're talking about, he's like the cornerstone of the new Red Sox. They just traded Rafael Devers, right? They're looking for a new identity, and that identity is is him and probably Roman Anthony. So there's not a snowball's chance in hell that the Phillies are going to pry that kid away from the Red Sox. The Red Sox are building for the future of their own. They're building a new identity. They decided just very recently that Rafael Devers wasn't that identity anymore, and now they're moving on from him. And boy, if you think about the Red Sox over the past couple seasons and maybe about 5 or 6 years, they've really grown some really good talent inside that system, but then decided, you know what, it ain't working. We got to get rid of them. So I wish we had that problem here, but rumors are just that. It's a rumor. There's no way that Dave Dombrowski's going to pull it. First of all, there's no way Boston's going to let go of that kid. There's just absolutely no way. He is the next Nomar Garciaparra, Wade Boggs. He's the next guy in that, he's the next face of that franchise. Whether or not he's going to live up to those expectations, I don't know, but I guarantee you they're looking at him like that. So I don't think that's going to happen. And that's the biggest question that I hear from Phillies fans. Well, then what do you do? If I don't like this team so much, then how do you fix it? And I don't think it's as easy as all that. It's not as easy as waving a magic wand and fixing it because of all the points I said earlier about being so invested in these players and not emotionally, but friggin' financially. There's some bad contracts on this baseball team that, the Phillies went into thinking that eventually they'd be bad contracts, but not 4 or 5 years or 3 years into the contract life that you're looking at a bad contract, The Bryce Harper situation with this team right now has become laughable. This guy continues to receive a free pass. Now he's not in the lineup at all. He's dealing with injuries. But the criticism never goes towards Bryce Harper, and it needs to. It should have always been pointed at Bryce Harper. I mean, he is the face, correct? He's not lived up to the expectations of what he was supposed to be when we brought him here. Nick Castellanos seems to be a bust in that contract that they gave him, and we're stuck with him for another year after this. JT Realmuto, I don't fault the Phillies for re-signing him back in 2021. I don't fault them at all. It was the wise thing to do. But now you're looking in a situation where's your catcher help coming next year? People ask me, how do we fix the Phillies? Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do it in season. You're not going to be able to fix this thing right now. That's not what this time of the year is for. This time of the year is to go out and perform with what you have because of what you did in the off season, which is the time to fix teams. And the Phillies did absolutely nothing this off season. But the potential of 2026, this coming, or 2025's off season, if things continue, and I think it's safe to say, and I don't think it's going out on a limb at all and saying it, they're not winning a World Series. They probably won't even smell the World Series, meaning they'll probably get bounced in the first or second round of the playoffs this year. Then you're looking at the offseason and what changes need to be made. And if anybody out there is going to believe Dave Dombrowski or actually physically accept the comments that we've had to accept over the past 3 seasons about, I still believe that we have the right pieces here, then maybe we as a fan base need to look ourselves in the mirror and stop. And I don't know, do something to revolt against this team, because serious change with this baseball team is, 1, going to happen because of some contracts that are coming up, and 2, need to happen this offseason. They got to get creative and try to move some of these people. And I don't know what the answer is. I can tell you what the answer isn't. It's not Cedric Mullins. It's not Luis Robert Jr. That's not the answer to pick the Phillies up and push them over the World Series finish line. It goes a little deeper than that. And I fear that we're entering that time where that conversation is going to be a really heady conversation that needs to happen if things continue down this road. So I don't think much can be done at the All-Star break, or not the All-Star break, with the trade deadline. I honestly believe if Dave Dombrowski does anything at the trade deadline, And this really sounds negative. I don't trust him to do the right thing. I don't trust him to bring the right people here, and I certainly don't trust him in trading away our prospects. There could be ramifications for years to come if he mishandles this trade deadline, which all indications say he will because he hasn't handled one successfully yet. So the Phillies are at a crossroads, man, and we are 80 games in the 2025 season. They are now for the month of June. What is their record for the month? 11-11, I believe. Yeah, they're a 500 club this month. And with the exception of a very good May, 19-9, this team is a 500 baseball team. 3-1 in March, 14-12 in April, and 11-11 in June. That's about as 500 as it gets, folks. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. So they're riding the coattails of a very strong month of May that really got them kind of back in the race, back in the mix. But now things have leveled off yet again. And no, it's not the last two games against the Astros. It's an 11-11 June. Don't get mad at me, man, when the stuff's right there in front of you. So the conversation with the Phillies will continue, and let's go see what Joe Hale's got to say now. I don't think the Phillies team is fixable. It's not, Joe. It's just not going to happen. I mean, there's way too many holes to fill. There's a philosophy problem with this ball club. Whether that philosophy problem rests on the shoulders of Rob Thompson, whether that philosophy problem rests on the shoulders of Dave Dombrowski, there's a philosophy problem. The way they attack the baseball, the way they attack the game, the way their vision is to winning this game. And what I mean by that is a championship. There's a problem with that. It's not correct. I'm not going to go as far to say there's a culture problem, but there is a philosophy problem, and there's a mechanical problem on this team. And for those out there, and I've heard this floated a lot more so this year than any other year in recent memory, to blame the hitting coach on the Phillies' problems is absolutely lunacy. Absolute lunacy. We're talking about Major League Baseball players, right? We're talking about the 1% of the 1% of baseball players on the face of the earth. And you're going to blame the hitting coach for their problems? Would you not think that the time to get serious, sage hitting coach advice has passed these players by years ago? And that at this level, at this stage of their life, and at this stage of their career, they should have an idea on how to hit. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Kevin Long, what does he do? Like, what is the role of a major league hitting coach? It's to report and observe your tendencies and to give you tips on how to improve your swing based on what he sees. That's all it is. He's not teaching them anything. Because at this level, what do you expect him to be? If we're really seriously going to blame Kevin Long for the problems of Bryce Harper, does that not sound ridiculous? And we're really going to blame Kevin Long for the problems of Alec Bohm. To me, it's utter ridiculousness. They are what they are. They've had 1,000 hitting coaches in their lives up to this point. They are in the major leagues. They're part of a Major League Baseball team, and they play every day. There's talent there. There's a know-how there. There's the ability how to hit there. What do you think Kevin Long is going to unlock that has not already been unlocked? So you get frustrated about Kevin Long. You get frustrated about Rob Thompson. I'm not saying you're not justified in that, but to pinpoint your hitting coach as your problem and say, once we fire him, all is well. No, man, that's lunacy. Absolute lunacy. The problems with this team go deeper. The problems with this team run deeper. And unfortunately, I don't know how easy it's going to be to get out from under these problems. And that's what they need to be focused on right now, whether that be through trades or whether that be through benchings or whether that be through firings of anybody. That's fine. But That is what the focus on this team needs to be, is to finally come to grips with reality, so to speak, on certain aspects of this ball club. And, from a baseball standpoint, Rob Thompson is probably not freaking out. It's a long season, and you've heard all this before, right? It's long seasons of ups and downs. We get hot, we get cold, we get hot, we get cold. But that's the problem with this baseball team, man. The switch flips so randomly and so quickly that I'm not blaming baseball for this. I'm blaming the players. I'm blaming we have the wrong people here. And I'm not saying we have bad players. No, we don't have the right ones. The lineup is not balanced. It's never been balanced. It's been a model of inconsistency. And you know what? I went on a rant the other night about Trevor Zegras and about, you brought in this flashy potential top 6 type scorer who is a very fast, finesse, playmaking type of guy, right? Well, if you had a team full of Trevor Zegrases, you might put some goals up on the board, but the other aspects of your game are going to suffer because they can't perform those. It's the same thing with the Phillies. They have one type of player here, and that's your power hitter. That's the guy that swings for the fences and has above average power. Well, somewhere along the line in this year, someone's figured out how to neutralize that power to an epic clip. The Phillies are way down on home run productions through 80 games. They got like 83 team home runs through 80 games. Last year in the first half, I believe they were close to 100 in the first half. In the second half, they were well over 100. But they're probably going to finish the season or the first half of 2025 an 83 or 84 home run hitting team. And when you have a team that's laden with power hitters, and that's all they're good for, and when they're not hitting for power, where else do you think you're going to turn? What other button are you going to push when there's no other buttons to push? You got the power hitters, and then you got some players that don't even belong on a major league roster that are playing here. And there's just no balance to that. It's a simple concept. It's right there in front of your face. Instead of trying to make excuses about Kevin Long, making excuses about Rob Thompson to a certain extent, why don't we look at the way this team is constructed? And why don't we look at the way this team is built? Because the answer lies there. It's not built correctly. And now they're not hitting home runs. So where now do you look? I know everyone wants them to play small ball, contact hitting. I am with that. I am with you people there. It's been my thing for years, right? But there comes a time when you have to realize that that's not what they are. They're a power hitting team, and it's not their fault, right? Somebody presented them a huge amount of money to come here and be a power hitter. But they also presented the other power hitter huge amount of money to come here and be a power hitter. And then the other power hitter, so on and so forth. Somebody above the player level decided to go all in on a power hitting team that does not do the other things in baseball well. And yes, I know I've bitched and I've moaned and I've pleaded for this team to be a different type of offensive team. But maybe that's where the problem is. Maybe that's what they're trying to do, and they're not good at it. And unfortunately, they're not hitting home runs either. So as we get to the first half point, the official first half, right? 81 games tomorrow, which, by the way, I will have you on the Fighting's Final tomorrow on that last game in Houston as the Phillies try to salvage the series against the Astros. It's a 2:00 start in Houston. Don't expect the Fighting's Final to be anywhere before 11 o'clock tomorrow night. I'm just going to put it out there. There's just no way humanly possible that I'm going to be able to come on the air until around 11 o'clock. It is what it is. But I will be here for the Fighting's Final. I promise you that. If it's at 11, so be it. If it's at 12, so be it. But I will be here with the Fighting's Final at some point tomorrow night. But we're at 81 games, more or less. If the season were to end today, how confident would you be of the Phillies going into the playoffs? Good question, right? Oh, man, what else we got here? I believe Stott is a bust. Yeah, so do I. There's a lot of players that I believe are not working anymore. Stott, Bohm. I mean, we can go down the list, Joe. And maybe that's what they need to do. Maybe the Phillies need to do this. Re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Try to find a way to get him to stay. Hear me out. Jettison Stott, jettison Bohm, jettison the entire center field situation. Keep around Max Kepler, and then go out and actually find. And I know everyone's going to be clamoring for some call-ups. And yes, I think Justin Crawford should be the center fielder, but maybe this offseason we actually go out and look for a contact hitting, put a ball in play type second baseman from the free agent market. Maybe we actually go out this offseason and look for a contact, put the ball in play third baseman, the bat sixth, to maybe try to balance this lineup a little bit. Maybe that's the answer. And do I necessarily think we need to cut loose Castellanos, Schwarber, Harper? No, because you would like to have those types of guys sprinkled throughout your lineup. But when your lineup is completely deprived or completely constructed of those types of hitters, it obviously ain't working. But maybe it's just about the supporting cast around this team. A better supporting cast, a cast of players that actually can put the ball in play. Maybe it's as simple as that. I wanted Alex Verdugo the biggest way this year. I wanted the Phillies to go out and sign him. I wanted them to go out and sign Gio Urshela. I wanted those types of players here because of their ability to put the ball in play. And we just don't have that yin to the yang with this team. We have yin, a bunch of yin, and we don't have much yang. We don't. And now you're going to get a massive hole at catcher. I think the Phillies are in a bad spot with that. And I think they're going to have no other choice but to try to re-sign JT Realmuto to like a 2-year deal, because there's nothing in the system that can come up tomorrow and is able to move into that position. So not a very good positive night for the Phillies. Not a very good positive situation for this team right now. And, a week from now when we play the Rockies, the A's, the Marlins, Pirates, whatever, and they win 11 out of 14, everyone's going to get right back up on that high horse. But then we roll around to play the Braves. We roll around to play the Yankees. We roll around to play teams like that, and they're going to struggle. We're right back down in the hole. And I said this, I equate this as being involved in an abusive relationship, right? The Phillies are that abusive partner that you could have. They slap you around, they make you feel like crap, but then they come back and they beg you and tell you, I love you. Look at me, I've changed. See, I can bunt. See, I can lay down a screaming liner down the left field line. Look at me, I'm here. It's me and you forever. And we go back, and then we get slapped around again. And hey, come on. You saw me do it before, right? We played small ball. We were 9 for like 15 with runners in scoring position tonight. See, I'm changing. I'm capable of changing. I love you. And we go back and then get slapped around some more. At one point, we got to break the cycle, right? We got to break that cycle. And I hope that day is coming soon. And of course, I'm not making light over domestic abuse. I'm not, but I'm just trying to give a metaphor. But Phillies lose 2-0 tonight. Go down in flames. The Houston Astros have not scored a run in the last 19 innings of play. Have the Phillies. Tomorrow they'll try to salvage the series against Hunter Brown. The Astros will go with Hunter Brown tomorrow, who enters the game with an 8-3 record and a 1.88 ERA and a whip of 0.92. So this is definitely not the pitcher, at least on paper, that you want to face when your team is offensively struggling. So we'll see how the Phillies reacted. They push off from Houston and they head over to hot Atlanta. It's an interesting week, a very interesting week here for the Phillies. They treat tomorrow as a program loss. It's an afternoon game. They'll have a little extra time to get to Atlanta, get settled in before the game on Friday night. Do they treat it as a program loss? A certain player's not going to be in the lineup tomorrow. We'll see. Christopher Sanchez is going opposite Brown tomorrow. By the way, your guess is as good as mine how this is all going to play out. Well, it's not, because we already know how this is going to play out in terms of the season. But game 80, and the Phillies are sitting at, what's their record? 47-33. Now I'm going to go homer here because I have to do it. I'm going to go Big Al here. I'm going to conjure my inner Big Al. Okay. If somebody took you on a rocket ship to Mars back in February and you were completely cut off to what was happening with the Phillies for the first 80 games of the season, and you came back to Earth, and all they said to you was the Phillies are 47-33. What are they, tied for first place right now with the Mets, or half a game ahead, whatever it is? How would you react to that? Would you be positive? Would you be negative? Would you be, oh wow, that's great. We're in this thing. We got a fighter's chance. I would say yes. If I didn't have prior knowledge of 2022, 2023, or 2024, I would say yes. But with the prior knowledge of those past seasons, I would say no. Because, fool me once type thing. So I don't buy that excuse anymore. Everybody wants to go to that. Well, I hear some of the hosts on this network go to what about the Dodgers? They're struggling. What about the Mets? They're struggling. Who gives an ass what the Dodgers or Mets are doing? It's all about what the Phillies are doing. It's always been about what the Phillies are doing. So, I'm having a hard time conjuring up any sort of hope, I guess, in the Phillies this year. Mets winning the NL East easily, my brother. Well, I'm not going to say easily, and I don't have faith in the Mets pitching, and I don't know if the Mets have faith in their pitching. But offensively, if that lineup can get out of its own way, they probably are going to find their way to. It's going to be the Mets, Phillies, and Braves in some form. I don't know. I don't think anyone's winning this division easily. At all. If the Phillies fall out of it, I think the Braves will push. If the Braves fall, it'll be between the Phillies and Mets. No one's going to run away with the NL East. And be honest with you, though, whoever does win the NL East, are they, is that the epitome at this point? It is 2025 in baseball, right? It's not, you got to win your division and you're in the playoffs. The philosophy of that division championship and being a division champion, has that lost? And I think we've talked about this, right? We've discussed how in some managers' eyes, they don't want to win the championship. The curse of the first round bye that the Dodgers did break last year, but that curse is still out there. Nobody really wants to take a week off heading into the playoffs, right? Everybody wants to go right into a series and kind of sort of either build off what they're working on or keep going and keep a rhythm going. So winning a division doesn't have the clout anymore that it used to in baseball. And that's just the way that the sport is designed now. It's not because it doesn't mean anything. It's just, why should I bust my ass to win 100 games, 95 games, 96, where I could easily save some arms, save some people, coast into the playoffs with that third wild card at around 86, 87 wins, and then get right into a series and try to, continue that momentum push, right? So to sit there, they're going to say they're going to win it easily. Yeah, maybe they do. Who cares? At this point, we've had this conversation over and over again on this program about that. And it's all about October. It's all about being hot at the right time, and it's all about having that momentum going at the right time. And it's hard to stop at the end of the season, sit there for a week, watch two other teams duke it out, and then get the winner of that team of that series, and then try to get up to their momentum, and you're down here because you've been sitting for a week. It's hard, and it's been proven season after season, with the exception, of course, of the Dodgers last year. They broke that curse. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a pretty flag that the Phillies get when they win the division. It's a pretty flag everybody gets. But other than that, the luster of winning divisions is sort of kind of worn off. Lindor has full ownership of CBP by a Mets fan. Lindor does own the Phillies, and I think Juan Soto might be planning a hostile takeover of CBP, honestly. The way they're hitting the ball there. I ain't going to deny that. I mean, that's been that was on display even over the weekend when the Phillies were winning, that they just couldn't seem to keep the baseball in the yard for those two players. Lindor is just crazy good at CBP. I won't deny that. And that's where it's going to come down to, when you look at the Phillies and Mets, we'll stack them together real quick. What, the faces of the three main threats of the Mets are what? Alonso, Lindor, and Soto. Okay. Now you stick them against the Phillies' three main threats, which would be at this point, and forgive me if I'm wrong, because I honestly, I'm going to have a hard time finding three, but you got Schwarber, Turner, and I don't know who the third one is, honestly. When healthy and playing up to his expectation level, be Bryce Harper. Who wins out right now when you look at those three players against each other? I mean, you got to look at the Mets, especially from a Phillies standpoint or a Phillies fan standpoint, when we know what these players, the three that I've mentioned, have come up short, especially in the playoffs. Turner has been MIA for the Phillies in the playoffs. Bryce Harper, except for 2022, has been MIA in the playoffs. And Kyle Schwarber has found a new form of consistency to his game, and maybe we get to see a different Kyle Schwarber in 2025 in the playoffs. But, I would much prefer at this point to go with Alonso, Lindor, and Soto versus Harper, Turner, and Schwarber. So, but ton of baseball left to play. Great point. All right. Probably about the division thing. Whoever wins the NL East is not making it out of the first round of the playoffs. I don't know about that, Joe. I don't know about that. And again, what does it matter, right? I mean, is the winner of the NL East, are they the front runners to win a World Series? Are they the class of the NL? I mean, are the Mets, Phillies, Braves, are they? Who's better? Who's a more lethal trio? The Mets, Phillies, Braves, or Giants, Dodgers, Padres? I mean, the NL West is crazy stacked. Crazy stacked. And maybe the lesser of the Giants being, the Giants with their pitching issues. And then Devers got some injury things going on. But, I mean, the NL West, to me, the winner of the NL is coming out of the West, if you're asking me today, based on what I've seen, based on what I've read, and based on what I know. I don't know of any team. Again, the Dodgers. Dodgers are a stacked team. And we saw it last year. They just sort of just said, you know what? Yeah, we're going to win. And then they go ahead and do it. And it's, is it unfair? A lot of Phillies fans are pissed off about that because they go out and they find ways to shell game contracts with Shohei Ohtani and players like that. But yet they do it and then they win. And then they got the trophy to prove it. So to me, I'm not necessarily at this point of the season, 80 games through, almost at the halfway point, looking at the NL East and anything other than, a playoff team or two, because I think the NL East will send two reps. They're going to send the division winner and they're going to send a wild card team, whoever that, whatever one of those teams are. But the NL East don't scare me. It doesn't scare me at all. It's the NL West. Now, maybe the Padres and Dodgers beat themselves up completely. They have 6 games left, and they're, maybe they have so many damn brawls that people get hurt, break hands, and whatever, and maybe they, kind of neutralize each other. But other than that, I don't really care who wins the NL East or who comes out of the NL East. I just don't see them stacking up against anybody in the NL West, to include the Giants, honestly. Dave, what's up, man? Why can't this team score with runners in scoring position? Blows my mind. Well, I think it's like the reasons I kind of went over. I don't know if you were here earlier, Dave, and I think back to those days, Bryce Harper signing days, 2019, when John Middleton said, you know what, I'm going to spend crazy, stupid money to get this team back in contention. And in 2018, we were treated to a resurgence under Gabe Kapler, right? A meaningful September of baseball, which blew away with the autumn wind. But they were in a position starting in 2019 to start spending that stupid money, and that's what was done, bringing players like Harper, Turner, Schwarber, and Castellanos here. And I think what was either it was John Middleton or Klentak or McPhailure or Dombrowski or Sam Feud or Preston Mattingly, I don't know, whoever you want to blame. There's a few people probably you can blame there. They were more concerned about bringing in big names than bringing in a baseball team. I don't know if anybody sat down and said, how are we going to Rubik's Cube this lineup or Tetris this lineup together when we have so many of the same type of hitter? How are we gonna do that? Like who's the cleanup guy, and who's batting third? How do we do that when we have so many of the same hitter? And they do one thing and they do it well, but that's all they do is one thing, and they do that well. They hit home runs, and it's either a feast or famine situation. And typically that's what it is with most power hitters. It's all or nothing. But there's no middle ground when it comes to situational hitting, right? Everybody gets offended when you mention the word Bryce Harper and bunting together, or Kyle Schwarber and bunting, or Nick Castellanos and bunting, or JT Realmuto and bunting. You get my point here, Dave. I've gone through about a third of the Phillies lineup, and we get offended when we mention the word bunting and their name together. So if we can't expect those players to sacrifice or to situationally hit, then how can we blame them for not scoring runs when they only do one thing and one thing well? So I think it comes down to a simple point of just an imbalanced lineup. Not bad players, the wrong players. They're batting 260 right now with runners in scoring position, which really, if you think about it, is not that far off, in my opinion. And I know numbers lie, and Al boasted about this a few weeks back, saying, oh, Phillies were batting 246 or something like that with runners in scoring position. Oh, they're the 5th best in Major League Baseball. Yeah, okay. Well, all right. Like 50 games in, yeah, they might have been. And I haven't looked at the recent league standings, but I'm a purist. I'm an old school baseball guy, and I always will believe that there's 2 offensive stats that mean the most about winning baseball. It's your batting average with runners in scoring position. And in my opinion, if you're not batting 270, a minimum of 270 with runners in scoring position as a team, you're not a legitimate World Series contender. I also believe if you're not scoring a minimum of 5 runs a game on average, you're not a legitimate World Series contender. And the Phillies are not doing either one of those at this particular moment in time. They're batting 260 with runners in scoring position. and they're averaging about 4.5 runs a game. That's not going to get it done, man. Not, especially not with these players and the money they make and their ability to hit home runs. So, Flyers question: do you think the Flyers take a goalie? I do not. Joe, I do not. One. Well, there's only one reason why I don't believe they will. They've already invested too much draft capital in goalies 2 years ago. And there's too many priority positions on this team to fill than to invest in more goalie capital. There's not a goalie in this draft that jumps off the page to anybody. Matter of fact, it's a very thin goalie draft when you look at it. And the Flyers have two very highly touted prospects in the system currently in Carson Bjornsson and Igor Zavrajin, who are going to be given an opportunity based on the fact that the Flyers mortgaged a high draft pick on both of them. And Matt, not only did they mortgage a high draft pick on both of them there, Joe, they did it in consecutive rounds in the same draft. Do you remember that? They drafted Carson Bjornsson in the second round, then turned right around in the third round and drafted Igor Zavrajin. So they went back-to-back goalie in the same draft. So if they're going out to draft a goalie at any point this season, to me that says that somebody mismanaged the draft 2 years ago, or was it 2 or 3 years, 3 years ago now, and when they took those two goalies. I need scores. I need friggin' difference making defensemen. I need talents. I need in front of the goalie talent. Now, I'm not saying we have a great goalie situation. Our goalie situation, yet again, is keeping us under the water, but there's just too many other holes for me for this team to invest in another goalie. And if you're asking late, as in 7th round late, whether okay, yeah, let's do it. 7th round, let's draft a goalie. But if you're asking late, like 5th round, 4th round, I don't know what you consider late, but I am not looking anywhere but defense or forwards until about maybe the 5th or 6th round. Then maybe if somebody's out there, I might get, but no, I don't think they do. We had We had our stot in the 8th. I don't know what that means, man. SARS, what does that mean? But please clarify what that means. We are coming up on the hour mark here on the final word, a late night version, and I do need to wrap this up, so I do apologize. I got to cut it short, but Phillies lose 2-0. We do have a Flyers draft. I rambled on for almost an hour about the Phillies, so we didn't really get too much into the draft, but the Flyers are poised. Sixers did draft tonight. Again, if you want to talk about that, we could have. No one brought it up, so we're not going to talk about it. I really don't give a shit, but you got the Flyers getting ready to embark on perhaps their most meaningful draft in 40 years. And the Trevor Zegras news earlier in the week is getting everybody excited, and hopefully more moves are coming. The magical day of July 1st is quickly upon us in the NHL, which is when people can start signing and moving around, and the Flyers can go after more players. There's that rumor, that kid out in Russia who, I don't know if you guys looked into this Shabatov or whatever his name is, Shamatov, 24 years old, tearing it up in the KHL. But why was he never drafted? Why was he never drafted in the NHL? He's 24 years old, been undrafted, and he's also 5'8". So I don't know if those are red flags for anybody out there. They're red flags for me. A 5'8" forward in the National Hockey League at 24 years old, I don't. That doesn't work for me. That's like the size of a 14-year-old. He's going to get destroyed on NHL ice. But they're rumored to be maybe involved with him and a few other international players. They're interested in Russia. So we'll see what the Flyers do with the draft. We'll see what the Flyers do with free agency. I'll be back tomorrow night with the final word, or not the final word, but the Fightins' final. Phillies Astros at game 81. There'll be no final word tomorrow night. And then I don't know if we'll do one Thursday night or Friday night. No, we will not do one Friday night. So this is it. This is probably my last final word of the week. 2. That's all I could get going this week. And I'm telling you, if you guys knew what I was into, you would understand. But thank you for joining me. A little bit past midnight here on the East Coast. And we're going to wrap this up tonight. So we didn't get around to doing the card review. We didn't get around to doing the of the night segment. We didn't get around to doing anything other than your day in Philadelphia sports history and me rambling on about the Phillies for an hour. So I will talk to you guys. Have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow. Yes, Joe. I will talk to you tomorrow. You guys have a great rest of your night and even better tomorrow. I think it's supposed to get cooler again, so that's good. We'll talk soon, I promise. I'll be back tomorrow night at the Fightins final, and then all the other great things we got coming up on the program, on the network, not the program, but the network over the next few nights. The Attacking Third tomorrow night, the wraparound with Pat Bernard on Friday, and then the PNM and the AM on Sunday, and of course all the Phillies post game stuff. And we'll do a deep dive with the Flyers draft at some point next week, I promise. If not, we'll get something going on Friday night. But we will talk Flyers hockey in nauseum next week, as we will recap the Flyers draft and hopefully maybe some more moves in free agency or in some more moves in the trade arena as well. But until then, you guys have a great night. See you tomorrow, or see you when I see you. It'll be tomorrow night. Take care.